You ever had somebody come to your house and they act like it's theirs? Well, I'm gonna tell you a story. I remember when I was young, I went to a friend's house, and in this particular friend's house, her mama did not play. When you came in her home, you took your shoes off. And as a kid, I didn't know what that meant, but I respected her house. I took off my shoes. But another thing that I did was I walked hard. Like I walk, I was a little person, but when I walked hard. And she said to me, she said, "Why you walking so dang hard in my house?" And I said, "Miss, I walk so hard because I walk with authority." She said to me, "Well, you ain't got no damn authority in my house." That was so funny, but it planted a seed of respect when you come into someone's home. And that transaction, I was about 16 years old, but that transaction shaped my life when it came down to being able to know how to conduct yourself when you go into someone's homes. Her rules were when you came into her home, you took off your shoes. That sign shows a sign of respect, but you don't walk around the house like you own it. That was why she questioned how I walked in her house and why she also checked me when I made an insertion that I walk like this because I walk with authority, which may be true, but she quickly corrected me and informed me that I had no authority in her home. So fast forward as I'm older and I think about that encounter and I think about when we invite people into our homes and when things go south. One is the owner of the home, the one who belongs there, don't establish proper boundaries when they invite guests in. And guests don't know guests don't always know how to conduct themselves in someone else's homes simply because no one taught them. They're moving and operating the way they know. So until someone corrects them that they have entered into another domain where they authority stop at the door, they don't know. So I find it very interesting when um, I run into people who have these types of exchange where people come into their homes and then they act like they own the house and they make the people that live in the house feel like they're the guests in the house. Um, so there, I remember when I was little, there was a scripture, I can't remember the scripture, where I think the Most High said to Moses when he came into the holies of holies, to take off his shoes. Don't you know that you are standing on holy ground? So he took off his shoes. There's also another scripture where it talks about when the witnesses, I think it was Peter, I can't remember, but the story went, they went to witness to someone, and the Messiah said to them, um, if they don't receive you, in their home, basically, if they don't receive you in their home, then to leave the home and shake the dust off shake the dust off. This is all about entering into different domains. Why do I bring this up? Because the shoe incident is a very symbolic encounter. So when you go to someone's home and you take your shoes off, in ancient time when we walked around with swords, it was you left your sword at the door. You left your weapon, your armor at the door when you entered into the palace. So symbolically here, when you're thinking about homes and domains in your home, You take your when you first of all, when you wear shoes, your shoes signifies where you've been because you walk. So back then you walk everywhere you go. And your shoes tell a story. It tells your experience, it tells who you are, it tells you where you've been, what you did. And your experience asserts some type of knowing, some type of right of knowing because of where you've been. But you have to understand that only matters outside the domain of someone else. So taking off the shoes symbolizes that you're willing to submit to the home, or you're willing to submit into the domain in which you're entering in. That what you've been through, that stuff does not matter when you enter into the domain of someone else. You are now under the house rules. We have to understand this. Now, house rules is when I enter in, I take my shoes off. When I leave, I put my shoes back on. Why? Because where I do matters when I leave outside of that domain. Who I am, where I've been, my experience, all that stuff matters when I leave that domain, because I'm no longer subjugated under the house rules of someone else. So the question is that I often time is nomads, people who never establishes a home, people who move and operate in the way of a nomad. They never actually take root anywhere. They are always under the domain of someone else in the effort to believe that they're free. Because every time you move and go somewhere, someone else has already established that place as a domain. So if you don't learn to assimilate or choose a wasteland to build your own home, then you in fact will always be a nomad. You will never take root, and you will always be under the subjugation of someone else's rules. You could find yourself in a domain of someone else's is not even know it. So the question is, where are you and why it matters? Again, going back to that scripture, do you know that you're standing on holy ground? That just indicates you entered into a domain that you probably don't have a rite of passage to be in there because they have a set of rules. So you may have accidentally stepped over into the jurisdiction of someone else just because you're a nomad and you don't know where you are. You don't know who village you're going into. You don't know who borders you are crossing because you have no sense of directions. You have no sense of any establishment. You're in your mind, you're just free. Your nature, you're like you move and operate like the animals until a man comes and establish their kingdom and establish their home, and it runs out all of the animals. You see these houses and structures going up, which was once the the land in which the animals occupied. Just a thought.